This might not make me many friends, but the new Spider-Verse movie really sucks. It sucks really well. Like, oh my god, that's better than the best head I got in my life. I lost my soul while watching that movie because Spider-Verse sucked it out of me while viewing. The main difference is that I've never finished while getting a blowjob, but I have finished while watching Spider-Verse, so that, like, it's better. Hey fellas, and welcome back to Quite with a Y. Yeah, I had to do the clickbait, you know how it is. This topic wasn't suggested, or I haven't even written down notes for it, because I want to get a little better at doing these videos off the cuff, a little more casually. But last night, I watched Spider-Verse 2, Across the Spider-Verse, and yeah, it's fantastic. I was kind of scared going in, like the trailers had kind of shown that this was going to be a visual treat no matter what. I just had heard there were shakeups in the writing team, so I was a little worried that the same spirit that carried the first one wasn't going to be there. But no, this movie really, like, takes the time to sit down with its emotions. Gwen gets a lot more, like, character detail than she did in the last one. Like, I would say her and Miles are arguably co-leads. I mean, they have been since, like, the first one, but it feels like they get even more equal billing this time around, not that Gwen was at all neglected in the last one. It's cool, and it's just funny how Gwen has gone from being Peter Parker's dead girlfriend to being shipped with Miles while alive, and also Spider-Woman. I will say the art style was a lot more daring this time around. There were so many different visual formats just kind of melded together in this one universe, and it was interesting because it's like the characters are aware of the art style they're in. They literally refer to one of the villains who's from, like, a Da Vinci sketch dimension as being made of parchment. He has cardboard outlinings, and canonically all the spider people can see that, which is really funny. That in mind, like to imagine they can also see all the text bubbles and all the comic paneling that's in their universe. Probably not, but it's a neat touch. They definitely went all out with the bigger budget, did a lot of neat, visually interesting things, and the art style changes a lot more than the last one, like somehow. If Into the Spider-Verse was like dipping your toes in, Across the Spider-Verse is like being dunked underwater. As much as the original Spider-Verse blew our minds initially because it was a great movie and the animation style was absolutely fantastic compared to pretty much anything we've been seeing in recent years, in comparison, it feels like that was a test run. It's like aesthetically compared to this movie, it feels tame, especially with the hindsight of Puss in Boots 2 coming out and that new animated Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on the horizon. And it kind of excites me because it speaks to a fear I had with the animation in the original Spider-Verse, where it was obviously fantastic, but I was afraid that studios might start taking the wrong lessons from it. I'm bringing up Puss in Boots 2 not because it falls into this trap, but because it's like an example of Spider-Verse's influence, where you can see a lot of the same visual cues, the animating on 2s and 3s intentionally for a more dramatic or snappy effect in action scenes. And it's done really well, but you can definitely see the Spider-Verse inspirations there. And my fear is that companies who see the success of that movie are only going to see the literal things that were in that animation style and try to copy literally those things and not the spirit of their implementation. The original Spider-Verse to me was so exciting because it was doing something new. It was like taking risks. And sure, I'd prefer all animated films have a dash of that Spider-Verse lined comic aesthetic, but I'm afraid it's going to become that as opposed to every animated movie trying to do something as original as the first Spider-Verse was when it came out. I think only time will tell, and animation in Hollywood has definitely benefited from Spider-Verse no matter what. And I think Across the Spider-Verse goes a long way to kind of soothe my fears of that because it pushes the envelope, I think, as much as the original did. If it does become a thing where they're copycatting Spider-Verse's art style, then as long as Spider-Verse is like always pushing the medium, there's a new benchmark that everything who's left copying the old one is going to have to catch up to. I think there are some, not many, drawbacks to the new art, though. I think it sacrifices a lot of the readability that the first movie had, in that you can't follow what's happening as cleanly on some scenes. Part of that's like ADHD brain. I can barely focus on one thing at a time as is, but it's also like there's so much going on screen, and it's always changing colors. It's a lot. The thing is, I think that's probably overall a good thing for rewatches. This is a movie I'm certain I will probably discover something new in every time I rewatch it, and I more than likely will be rewatching it because, oh my fucking god, that cliffhanger dude is killing me. It's nuts that in a year where Infinity War came out, it was not my favorite comic book movie. And since Infinity War, this is the fucking cliffhanger ending that has had me the most moist in a long time. I'm very glad they didn't end up calling it Part 1 because I think that just kind of dilutes the marketing, or it kind of stops each film from being its own standalone thing, at least in concept. Like if you call it Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 and Part 2 as the official titles, I don't want to call it Part 1 and Part 2 in discussion. discussion. I've always wondered if that's something that studios do specifically to drum up interest when they do eventually change the name. Like, it was never going to be released as Part 1 and Part 2. In fact, the only movie I've seen actually do that is the Deathly Hallows. But yeah, now we're in spoiler territory. I have talked about all the things that immediately come to mind that I wouldn't ruin the experience or the story because it's good. So all that said, I would just, if you haven't seen it, click off this video, go watch it, literally do it as fast as you can because you'll get it spoiled if you wait too long. There's a lot to love in there. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh my god, they actually put Spectacular Spider-Man in it, dude. He wasn't just a background character. He has fucking lines and dialogue that reference the events of the show. I was screaming. And he has a fucking 3D model that mimics his original art style. Oh my god, dude. I was so happy with that shit. I also think the way they incorporated the real-life Spider-Man or the live-action versions of Spider-Man was tasteful. A lot of people thought the cameos would be dope if they had the actual actors in animated form come in, or if they reprised their roles specifically for their version of Spider-Man. I just don't really think that works for a movie like this, where it's so separated from the mainline Marvel continuity. I think the way they did it was a lot better. They made cheeky references to Spider-Man No Way Home, where Doctor Strange fucking tore a hole in the fabric of the multiverse. Wait, no, Spider-Man did that. Oops. It was kind of a group project. They have footage straight up taken from the original Raimi films and The Amazing Spider-Man, and I think they're used just enough to not be jarring. They're used as visual examples for what the life of Spider-Man is meant to be, and I think that's probably the most fitting scene you could use it in. They use it to demonstrate to Miles what Spider-Man is about, how you have to lose somebody to learn an important lesson. And I was kind of confused about that because didn't he already lose his uncle? Like, literally his Uncle Ben? Regardless, the scenes where Uncle Ben dies or Spider-Man is crying his eyes out are used to teach Miles the same thing they were teaching us or trying to communicate to us when we originally watched those movies, which was like a cool hand and down sort of thing. I am curious if they'll take it further in the next movie where, like, maybe they will actually cross that threshold of bringing in the original actors or doing some live action shit. Well, they did do that. They did have a cameo where, like, the counter worker in Venom, Mrs. Chen, has a discussion with the main villain and then I think whacks the fuck out of him. I don't remember. Also, I hadn't heard of Spot before this whole thing, and he really was built up as a villain of the week thing in the trailers, though. From watching those, I kind of assumed he'd have more to do because you don't give a named character his own clip release if he's not going to have more to do. And also, being able to make portals to, like, pocket dimensions and teleport in a movie about the multiverse, it's probably going to come up again. I'm just saying. And it's not like they tried to hide it. I'm being dramatic here, but I'm enjoying seeing him grow from, like, that villain of the week thing they kept calling him. A dude down on his luck who had an unfortunate accident and now also has superpowers. And as he grows to, like, a real, like, multiversal level threat, Jesus. I'm just saying, whoever put together the Spider Society of the multiverse, why did you pick Spider-Man of all people to be the dude you have to get versions of to protect the multiverse? Like, get fucking Infinite Supermans, Jesus. He's out there. He's gotta be out there, bro. It's literally the multiverse. Anyways, I'm running out of shit to waffle about. There's definitely more I will have regretted not writing down to say in the video, but just watch the damn movie, alright? You'll agree with me. If you want to hit me with topics, hit that kwytebox@gmail.com. Anyways, piss off.